Hello and welcome to another Office Hours capsule. That's right. Another section of my Office Hours live stream capsule that I do on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, live on twitch.tv/TheAstroPub and here on youtube.com/TheAstroPub live. Love to you come join chat here while we look at the Star Citizen's lore, news, and more. And you'll start seeing a lot more of these in the near future because as I moved Captain's Table away from this channel to its own channel in the new year, this will be mostly doing these sorts of live reactions and sort of analysis that I do on YouTube. I'll do some other stuff as well, but that's kind of another thing. Let's talk today about a big release, which is the letter from the chairman. If you haven't seen these, we get these usually once a year. They're written by the CEO and founder of Cloud Imperium Games, the makers of Star Citizen. His name is Chris Roberts. He's pretty big for doing video games in the 90s, specifically the Wing Commander series. And these are usually good insights in terms of what has happened throughout the year and what they're planning on doing in the new year or going forward from the letters written. So this is a big one because it talks specifically about the release of 4.0, which as of this recording is not released yet, but will be released by the time you watch this, and how patches will be working going forward in Star Citizen. So let's read through the letter. It's going to be a little bit, so make sure you grab something to drink, eat something, and if you enjoyed the video, as a reminder, hit that like button. It does help a lot. Let's get started. All right. Long ago, lost in the mists of time before COVID, at CitizenCon 2949, we showcased the first in-game prototype of traveling from the Stanton system to the Pyro system via jump point. After a much longer than anticipated development process, what we teased in 2019 becomes a reality for all players when we launch Star Citizen Alpha 4.0 to the live servers as part of what we're calling the 4.0 preview. For the first time in our history, we will run 2 live releases in parallel, each with their own progress and persistence. This means you'll have the unique opportunity to choose which version you want to dive into, at least for a little while. At this stage, we both want and need the high traffic of a live release to thoroughly test server meshing and the newly refactored systems that rely on it as they go through their final paces. We acknowledge that we did not have time to get all the mission types working before holiday break, which is why we have decided to temporarily support 2 parallel live tracks. Alpha 3.243 will remain available so you can play the missions and engage in your own game loops that are not working in our new not working to our new playability standards in 4.0. Meanwhile, the 4.0 preview will also be accessible from your launcher as a second live option. If you're not interested in previewing 4.0, you can simply select Alpha 2.4.3 from the drop-down and continue enjoying the current live build. So, if it's not clear, I'll make sure to try to break it down even further. There will be 2 versions of Star Citizen Live. The live version, which will be more of what you typically will call a stable release, which is 3.24.3, current build we have right now, and then the unstable release, because it's not fully completed or not fully up to the standards they want it to, with Alpha 4.0. Personally, I like this change, and I'll go more into depth on it when we kind of finish up the talking. But that means that you're going to have both 4.0 options and 3.24.3. So if at the time of this watching, you're trying to rage watch because 4.0 is currently a dumpster fire, you have 3.24.3. If it's perfect and wonderful, great job. Why are you watching this? Go play it. Anyway, let's move on. This may feel like our usual PTU process, but there's one key difference. By running both builds on the live environment, we can take steps to ensure that your progress on 4.0 will carry over. Our goal is for anything you do to earn in the 4.0 preview to persist without any further wipes, unless something major happens, though we do not anticipate that. That said, it's important to note that progress made in Alpha 3.24.3 will remain tied to that version and will not transfer to 4.0. This allows us to maintain a clean slate for the new systems coming online in the 4.0 preview, ensuring a consistent and stable environment as we look to depreciate 3.243 in the new year. So yeah, 4.0 will continue to have progress. 3.2, 4.3 will not progress into 4.0. So if you play live, the live preview of 4.0, you will be playing as if it was a live release. Effectively, 4.0 is released in all but name. They just give you the option to downgrade if you want to play instead of having to play the buggy new versions. So as you navigate through Stanton and Pyro, you are also navigating seamlessly through the mesh of servers that encompasses the entire game. Each planet, landing zone, or major station is now covered by different game servers. Thanks to this technology, server boundaries are effectively invisible, even at our high levels of fidelity, ensuring smooth, uninterrupted gameplay. There are still some weird issues, like every so often when you cross a server boundary, your ship will still be pulled out of quantum, but it is not abrupt. It's usually pretty subtle and slow. That's likely to change when they have the new quantum version in, the quantum system in, because the current quantum system is a skip. It's just a spline that skips rather than a smooth transition. So some small issues, but it's mostly seamless. It's not every time it happens. It just happens sometimes. This means that server performance, playability, and overall health are now local to each of the nodes in the server mesh. Even dreaded server crashes are now localized to those regions, with players in other areas of space on planets unaffected. It also means that improved performance, as each server is simulating fewer entities, resulting in more responsiveness and allowing for the game you're striving to create to finally shine through its content. 4.0 is not just 3.243 with server meshing. It also includes a lot of new content. With the addition of Pyro, we have further pushed our reputation system to include 2 competing mission chains that allow you to align with either the headhunters or citizens for prosperity. This means that areas that were previously neutral will become hostile or friendly depending on your choice. This decision will become even more important next year as we start to put greater focus on storytelling inside the verse. For those of you who know me as the Astro historian, that makes me very happy. Paul is a very happy streamer, very happy historian by hearing that. We've also introduced contested zones within the major stations in Pyro, each heavily manned by a gang faction, Fire Rats, Horizon, or Xenothreat. Interesting. That's where Horizon's being mentioned. Someone asked about it earlier. We don't know a lot about Horizon. We know about the Fire Rats and we know about Xenothreat, but Horizon is the first time I've heard them. I think I've seen them mentioned before, but I don't know what they are. These large, sprawling locations offer high-quality rewards in the depths of their vaults, but will also need to be contend with current occupants and either help or battle your fellow players. They're also the home to the mysterious Pyro-amalgamated component boards, which some say can lead to even greater rewards. If you've been paying attention to 4.0, you know what those are. I'm not going to say it here because some people don't want to be spoiled, but do it. It's where you get a lot of good stuff, so... all right. This type of content is an important milestone as we start to introduce different ways for players to progress in game, with reputation and physical rewards being something we aim to push even further in future patches. All right, so that's 4.0. 4.0 is coming out in parallel with 3.23 or 2.4.3. They're both going to be in the live servers. You can choose to downgrade to 3.23.4 or 2.3.3. No, 2.4.3. Ugh, so done with that. But effectively, 4.0 is live. It's just not the only live server. "2025, a focus on playability. This is where CIG says everything you want to hear, but I don't know if you can trust them. I'll talk about that here in a moment. As we jump into the new year, our primary focus across Star Citizen teams is clear: improving playability. Our drive for playability surrounds 3 critical areas: performance, stability, and content. We understand that live environment must be far more reliable and consistent, and we're determined to deliver on this. The sentiment many of you have shared, and one we wholeheartedly agree with, is that if our current game, as it stands today, ran smoothly with fewer obstacles and bugs, it would provide an unparalleled experience. Over the years, we've experimented with different approaches to improve the quality of life, QOL, and tackling tech debt. However, the ongoing challenge has been balancing these efforts alongside the introduction of new features and technology. Too often, testing new features within the same pipeline as content has led to unintended ripple effects, creating instability, hindering performance, and impacting overall gameplay. In some cases, new features are not fully mature, have delayed the release of content, or caused blockers that impact our progress. This has prompted us to reevaluate our approach to feature and content rollout, focusing on steps we can take to bring the game to a better state while maintaining steady delivery. To achieve our goals, we're making fundamental change, decoupling feature development from content creation and general fixes. This means new features will no longer hold up content delivery or risk destabilizing the live environment. This approach will leverage the tech preview channel, which was reserved for major patches of technology like the replication layer and server meshing, but will now extend to gameplay feature testing too. When a new feature is deemed complex or risky enough to require focused testing, we'll introduce a separate experimental PTU, the PTU channel, dedicated to that feature. Testing in this isolated channel will allow us to refine and stabilize the feature without impacting content and broader development work. Only once the feature is fully greenlit will it integrate into our standard EVO PTU live pipeline. This means we'll have more stability and predictability in our ongoing game releases, as the main development stream will not be disrupted by untested features still being worked on. Instead, the team can focus on improving stability, performance, and QoL alongside this playability initiative. We're also tying together our content releases so they feel more connected to the world. This means each new content drop will be more focused and drive an overall narrative forward, similar to our Overdrive and Save Stanton events. This content will then unlock new and powerful rewards, including ships, armors, and weapons that you can play to earn. We're taking this approach to deliver more things to do, and more often than we have in the past, where we have frequently been held hostage by tech or feature work that has been taking longer than anticipated. Our objective is to make Star Citizen more stable, more performant, and more fun this coming year. Heresy. Star Citizen fun? Heresy. My whole career, I have created the games I wanted to play as a gamer, because I could see the game in my mind's eye that didn't exist. I felt if it did, it would be amazing, and I could see the steps needed to make it a reality. I have been fortunate that the games I want to play, a lot of other people also want to play too. But I have rarely met a publishing executive that has the ability to see the possibilities in this kind of vision. He's not wrong. They can only see unknown quantity, a sequel, a bet on an existing IP. This is why I chose crowdfunding for Star Citizen rather than pursuing a development deal with a big publisher. And it is why I feel incredibly lucky and privileged to be able to develop Star Citizen and Squadron 42 with your continued support year after year, as it allows me and every developer at CIG to focus on just making the games that we and you all want to play. Aside from Star Citizen, this is a consistent thing. Like, for instance, I often make the comparison of Chris Roberts to Hideo Kojima, which makes Hideo Kojima fans very angry, but Chris Roberts precedes Hideo Kojima by like a decade, and they're cut from the same cloth. But for the same reason, they're both auteurs. They have very specific visions for their projects, and they are very difficult to shake once they start working on those projects. And the difference between Kojima and Chris is that Chris has a very sci-fi flavor or very specific niche, I guess, thing. But it's more in terms of their approach to games. Kojima they both wanted to do film. They both come from that background. They wanted to do film, but they made games. So they kind of approach it from that same angle. But Chris always wants to go bigger and more bombastic. He's more of like theater of the epic, more sort of bigger budget blockbuster, whereas Kojima was always focused on sort of niche, weird storytelling, more Pulp Fiction sort of things. And both of them have the same experience where publishers came in and told them what to do, and they told them they didn't like that, and then they left and got messed up by various publisher meddling. And those two are good examples, but they're not the only examples. There's plenty of examples of those sorts of things happening. So you've probably experienced or know a story about a publisher who's messed up or a developer messed up by a publisher. I mean, Helldivers 2 completely getting stiff-armed by Sony with their stupid requiring PSN account sort of thing. So, all right. So it's a common thing you've probably experienced. Star Citizen and Squad 42 are two games that would never have been greenlit by any big publishers. They're both too ambitious and in a genre that up until recently was viewed as niche. They require patience and investment that I doubt any publisher would have a stomach for. He's 100% right. No company would ever greenlit Star Citizen or Squadron 42. They just require too much money and they wouldn't be enough ROI on it. They wouldn't make enough money. And they haven't. You look at how much money they've made compared to like a game of similar budget, like GTA has similar budgets to Squadron 42 and Star Citizen, and they just make money by printing stuff. Red Dead Redemption, Call of Duty, like those are the ones that have these sort of gigantic budgets, and they also make gigantic returns. In comparison, Star Citizen and Squadron 42 have gigantic budgets, and they'll make modest returns. So. Yet here we are all thanks to you. The team and I are determined to repay that faith, patience, and support by delivering two games unlike any other. We've already made great strides. With today's release, servers meshing is no longer a question mark, but a reality, and seeing the results of a more densely populated universe, as well as a better performance and stability. We are closer than ever to realizing a dream that many have said is impossible. With a clear destination for both Squadron 42's release and Star Citizen 1.0 roadmap, a focused team, and most importantly, the enthusiasm and support from the best community in gaming, we will deliver. This confidence comes from the unwavering dedication of the Evocati testers, the hundreds of thousands of you who help us test releases at scale at the PTU, and the immense amount of constructive feedback shared across Spectrum, Discord, YouTube, Facebook, X, and Reddit. No Twitch? Feel hurt there, Chris. Your involvement shaped Star Citizen in countless ways, making this journey a truly collaborative effort. The impact of the community is felt far beyond the game as well. In 2024 alone, an incredible 203 Bar Citizen meetups were held, bringing players together to celebrate their passion for our shared universe. This year also shattered in-person attendance records. Community organizers events such as BCon, and the Shenzhen Bar Citizen drew over 2,000 attendees. By the way, Shenzhen, come up with a cool name. If there's any members of the Chinese community who wanted cool ideas, I can give you some lore ideas. Call me, talk to me. I can give you some interesting lore bits about China. There's some cool stuff there, which you can incorporate. Well, CitizenCon 2954 in Manchester welcomed more than 5,000 fans from every corner of the globe. Over 1 million of you have played 32 million hours of the game this year, and our ranks have swelled by almost 500,000 citizens. This is a community that is only getting stronger. The journey hasn't been without its challenges, but nothing great ever comes easy, and there's no one I'd rather have by our side than you. Thanks to all your support in 2024, wishing you a happy holidays, and looking forward to the great things we'll do together in 2025. Chris. So, let's talk a little bit about this, and then let me kind of extrapolate what probably is, what I like and what I dislike about this. So the first thing we can tell is that 4.0 and 3.24.3 are going to be released in parallel, and 4.0's release is going to be the actual release that matters going forward, but because it's still not fully there, they are releasing a little bit extras. It's effectively there, it's just not all the missions that are in 3.24 are there, is their argument. So it lets them give that sort of playability argument where I have seen this many times, many people in my comment section or on Twitch have said CIG needs to stop adding things to the game and just make it functional. But there's the other camp, which admittedly I'm part of. I'm a move fast and break stuff sort of guy. There are just, add where is X, Y, or Z feature? Where's, bounty hunting? Where is scanning? Where is exploration? Where is science? Where is base building? Where is, any number of things that CIG has promised to do and hasn't put in yet. With both of those sorts of sides, CIG is threading the middle where you want stability. There's 3.24.3. Is it great? No, but it's probably going to be better than the 4.0 release, at least initially. So you still have something you can get back onto. But there are people like me who are like, forward, onward, charge over that burning trash can. You can still do that too. And those people are going to be the ones who get to continue the progression. So there's at least an incentive to do so. So that also leads to the focus on playability. So it's a little confusing, but what I can gather from this is that CIG is going to be breaking up releases into two different camps: content and features. Now, I've had people in chat ask, what's the difference? Content is, based off my understanding, effectively taking what we have in game right now and expanding upon it. Think about Save Stanton. Save Stanton is taking missions that already exist in the game of Star Citizen and simply strings them together with a connected goal and narrative. You know, hunting an Idris. That's the end of the chain for the Arlington gang missions. There are assassination missions, which exist already, and, you know, killing all the bunkers and destroying aspects. They're taking elements of the game that already exist and little plug-in pieces of the mission tech and putting them together. That's content. Things like Xenothreat or the Assault on Stanton, those are content. Or Assault on Stanton, what is it called? Siege of Orson. That's content. Whereas bounty hunting or scanning is features. So it sounds like what they're going to do, and we'll show this again so you can see. We will have an Evocati, which will then go into PTU. The Evocati might have the Evocati might have features and content in it. But once we get to PTU, they will separate anything that they think is going to be disruptive to the content and pull it out into the ePTU. Once it's an ePTU, it will then completely skip live and go into a separate release. So you can think of this as, let's say, 4.1. And if there are features that are not going to make it well, like that don't play well with the content, it'll be pulled out into an ePTU and be sent off to an Evocati after the live, which will be a 4.1.1 patch, or if that doesn't work, a 4.1.2 or 4.3, whatever, you know, future patch that can survive it. So they'll be testing it off and on. They may turn it off and turn it back on with as a tech preview rather than being a completely new thing. So ePTU now is what we used to call the tech preview. It's now, that's what it is. ePTU is called experimental PTU. So what we're having with 4.0 is sort of like that, but kind of not. I wouldn't expect, for instance, 4.0 to actually release. In fact, they're going to, what did they say? Was the term devalue? Depreciate. So I don't expect them to depreciate 3.2, 4.3 until they have enough content in with like probably 4.0.1. So I expect the 4.0.1 to be the actual release, the full release of 4.0, in the sense that it's actually out and being tested on live servers, but it's now no longer being held in parallel. But all progress will roll over from 4.0 preview to 4.0 live. Yes, it is live. It is live in all but name. It's just CIG can't confirm all of the missions available. So, for instance, I don't think salvage missions are in 4.0. I could be wrong on that one. There's some mission types which either just straight up don't work or just aren't in the game yet. So, for 4.0. So they don't want to give people bad feels like this guy, who is a completely legitimate trader selling high value goods in small quantities. Completely licit suspects, things. Don't ask me. That was entirely removed for 3.23 or 3.24 and gave me the feels bads, but it's back in 4.0, but I can understand that if that was the case. So what does this mean moving forward? I like this change. it's going to do a couple things. Number one, it's going to make it so that players going forward are going to have a similar experience in live, and CIG will not push new content. The one thing I'm a little concerned about specifically is that this may mean that you're not going to get features, a lot of features in Star Citizen. So I don't know how many features are going to be they plan to, but whatever it is, I'm going to have it. So one of the things that I expect CIG to have in the new year is things like scanning. The new scanning tech is something they've been working on since the summer. I expect it to go in, but I also expect it to be disruptive and not working properly when it's first released. So almost certainly it'll end up in an EPTU, so it'll release not in 4.1 or 4.2, but in 4.1.1 or 4.2.1, a different release. Same with things like base building. I expect that to be in an EPTU as well. And anything like the new bounty hunting, which isn't in this year probably, but if that comes in, it'll be an EPTU. So it's likely that we're no longer going to see patches being strapped to specific features, only content. So you're going to hopefully see more content on a regular basis. But for those of you who are like, I don't want to play the current patch as it stands because it doesn't have my gameplay that I want it to have, you're going to be SOL for a while going forward. So it's going to probably feel a little undercooked initially and maybe get a little bit better. But as it is how it is right now. I do think that there'll be a large contingent of people who are very happy with this move because more and more people are say basically I would play Star Citizen if it was stable. And with 4.0's at least EPTU releases or PTU releases, it is actually pretty stable. There's some weird bugs, but it seems like those bugs are more of CIG hasn't had a time to evaluate those bugs and more of and they'll get to it once they get the stability issues worked out. So now this does mean, because there will be questions come up already in chat, I can see this, which is, can I still do save Stanton if 3.24.3 is? Yes, you will still be able to do save Stanton in 3.24.3 until it is completely removed from the live features. That's when they're going to start doing probably the save Stanton sections for Pyro. So if you haven't done save Stanton, that'll be one of the reasons why you continue to play 3.24.3 for sure. But you'll also have to download the game twice. So from the current guesstimates is that to have both 3.24.3 and 4.0 preview live will run you about 250 gigs of space. It's going to be expensive if you want both of them on there. You can also rename the folder. I believe, let me look at the chat. Someone said, put it up there. Specifically, Benoit said that it is going to be, you could rename your folder 4.0 underscore preview. And you just do a verification and it'll just only update the files that you're missing. So if you have, for instance, EPTU, you can just rename it and do that. But 4.0 underscore preview, all caps preview. So interesting times. This is a pretty big update from Chris, and it seems like we're going to see an interesting direction shift from CIG going forward. But as always, I want to hear your thoughts. Do you like this change? Do you think that this is a good idea? Do you think CIG will even stick with it? Do you think CIG Chris is just trying to honey words us and say, oh, we promised this, but they're just fighting fires. They just know people are mad right now, and so they're angry about it. To give you context as well, Darionator did some math of the things that he said, which was saying 1 million of you have played 32 million hours of the game this year, and that came out to an average with some guesstimates of about 3,800 people average per day playing Star Citizen. And if that sounds low, it is. Almost certainly activity has gone down a little bit. So if that's the case, you're probably looking at CIG reacting to the fact that engagement is lower than it has been in previous years, and they know they have to change it because one of the reasons why it's so low is because Star Citizen was kind of awful in terms of a lot of things this year, and on top of an awful year previous years in terms of playability. content was great or features were great, but, you know, problems. So, as I said, let me know down below in the comments your thoughts on any of this. Make sure to join us live at twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, youtube.com/TheAstroPub live. If you did enjoy this, hit that like button, subscribe for more content, and hit the bell icon to be notified when these release. And like I always say, hope to see you someday in the black.